The clock ticked in rhythm with the slow pulse of her heart. 8:47 p.m., the time when most people her age were already in bed, wrapped in blankets, drifting into harmless dreams. But not her. Her name was Mina Cross. 71 years old. Wrinkled hands, silver hair tied neatly in a bun, a faint scar running across her right cheek, the only visible remnant of a life most would never believe. To her neighbors, she was just Miss Cross, the quiet old woman who fed stray cats and trimmed her rose bushes with near-military precision. They saw the calm surface, the delicate movements, the polite nods, the smell of lavender tea drifting from her porch. But beneath that surface was something colder, sharper. A blade honed by decades of death. Mina had once been an assassin, the Wraith, they called her, a ghost in human skin. She killed with grace, precision, and purpose. Her targets vanished without a sound, their deaths so clean it was as if life itself had merely forgotten them. She had retired 15 years ago, burying her past deep beneath the facade of normalcy. But the past doesn't stay buried. It waits. It festers. That night, the first knock came, soft, deliberate. She froze. The kettle hissed, steam curling in the lamplight, but she didn't move. No one ever knocked on her door at this hour. She waited, listening, 3 seconds, 5, 7, then it came again. Louder. Heavier. Her hands trembled as she reached beneath the table, pulling out an old wooden box. Inside lay a knife, slender, elegant, and impossibly sharp, its steel polished like a mirror. She hadn't touched it in years, but her fingers knew exactly where to rest. She approached the door, her heartbeat steady now, trained. She glanced through the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty porch bathed in yellow light. The street was silent, the air unmoving. Then came the whisper. Mina. Her name, spoken softly, like a caress from a ghost. She felt her stomach drop. The voice was familiar. Male. Deep, weathered, and dripping with memory. She hadn't heard it in decades. Open the door, Mina. We need to talk. She didn't move. Jack, she whispered under her breath. Jack Torrance, her handler. The man who trained her. The man who was supposed to be dead. Slowly, she unlatched the door. It creaked open to reveal a figure drenched in rain, his face half hidden under a hood. He looked older, gaunt, eyes sunken, beard rough and gray. But his smile was unmistakable. You're supposed to be dead, he interrupted, stepping inside uninvited. Yeah. That's what they wanted you to think. The smell of wet earth followed him in. Mina shut the door silently. What do you want, Jack? She asked, voice low but steady. He looked around her small home, the books, the porcelain cups, the half-finished crossword on the table. His lips curled. You've gone domestic. She ignored the jab. Why are you here? Jack met her eyes, and for a brief second, she saw something, fear. Genuine, unfiltered fear. They're coming for you, Mina. The ones we used to work for. The organization's gone rogue, new leadership, new blood, no rules. They've been cleaning house. Anyone who knew too much is dead. Everyone except you. Mina's fingers tightened on the knife handle. I walked away clean. No one walks away clean, he whispered. Silence hung heavy between them. Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon. Jack reached into his coat and placed an envelope on the table. It was soaked from the rain, edges curled and torn. Inside was a photograph, grainy, black and white, of Mina's small cottage. The red X marked on the door was unmistakable. They've already found you. Her world tilted slightly. She stared at the photo, then back at him. How long do I have? He hesitated. Maybe hours. Maybe less. Her eyes hardened. The quiet old woman vanished in an instant. The wraith returned. Mina stood, her joints cracking faintly, but her movements fluid, precise. She walked to the dresser, opened the hidden drawer beneath her scarves, and pulled out a small black case. Inside, a suppressed pistol gleamed beside a neatly folded leather holster. Jack smirked, impressed despite himself. "Still keeping souvenirs?" "Souvenirs keep you alive," she replied. As she strapped the knife beneath her sleeve, a sound split the air, glass shattering in the back room. Both turned. Mina's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're early." The lights flickered. Shadows moved outside the window. Jack pulled his gun, Mina gripped her knife. The old wooden house seemed to breathe around them, the storm howling like some ancient warning. And then, the first figure appeared at the end of the hallway, face hidden behind a black mask, holding a silenced weapon. Mina exhaled slowly. Her voice was calm. "I'm too old for running." Then she stepped forward. And the old woman became the legend once more. The rain hammered the windows, drowning out everything except the pounding of her heart. Mina moved like a shadow, silent, sharp, deliberate. The years had softened her body, but not her instincts. She could feel them in the house now, intruders, trained, disciplined, efficient. Wolves sent to tear down the ghost who once hunted for them. The first man came through the hallway, gun raised, steps careful. He thought she was fragile. That was his mistake. Mina waited behind the door, timing her breath with the thunder outside. The moment lightning flashed, she struck. Her knife sliced clean through the man's throat, one smooth motion, no hesitation. He collapsed soundlessly, his gun clattering against the wooden floor. Mina caught it mid-fall, steadying the sound with her palm. Jack stared, half in awe, half in disbelief. "You haven't changed," he muttered. Mina looked down at the blood pooling near her slippered feet. Her face didn't move, but something flickered in her eyes, something dark, buried, and now reawakened. "Neither have they," she whispered. Another sound. A creak in the floorboards above them. Two more. They were inside already, surrounding the house like a tightening noose. She turned to Jack. "Back door. Go." "What about you?" "I'll distract them." He hesitated, but the look she gave him was enough. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order, the kind she used to give before death followed her like perfume. Jack slipped through the kitchen. Mina crouched, listening. Her mind sharpened like glass, calculating distances, angles, sound. Every breath became a weapon. Then came the memory. Blood. Snow. A body in Moscow, 1992. She remembered the cold pressing into her bones, the way her knife slid beneath ribs, how she'd whispered a prayer she no longer believed in. That was her first kill. The one that haunted her dreams even now. And as the next mercenary entered her living room, she saw his eyes, green, alert, terrified, and for a heartbeat, she saw that same man she'd killed years ago. The same pleading look. The same flicker of humanity before death. But mercy was a luxury long buried. The fight was fast, brutal, efficient. He lunged. She sidestepped, slammed the butt of the pistol into his temple, and drove her knife up through the soft tissue beneath his jaw. He spasmed, eyes rolling white, collapsing into her arms. She lowered him gently, almost tenderly. When she stood again, her hands trembled. Not from fear. From memory. The smell of blood pulled her backward through time, faces, names, missions. People she'd loved. People she'd killed. And the one she couldn't forget, Elias. Her husband. The only man who ever knew who she really was. And the one she'd been ordered to kill. She shook her head violently, pushing the image away. Not now. Focus. Gunfire exploded from the kitchen. Jack's shout cut through the chaos. Mina! She ran, sliding across the tile as another shot shattered the window beside her. Jack was on the ground. Blood leaking from his shoulder. Two masked men stood at the doorway, aiming at her. Mina dropped, rolled, and fired twice. Two bodies hit the floor. She was breathing hard now, chest tight, sweat and blood mingling on her skin. Jack coughed, struggling to stay conscious. "They're not stopping," he groaned. "There's more outside." Mina pressed a hand against his wound, her voice flat but calm. "You'll live." He grunted in pain. "You always say that. And I'm always right." Outside, the rain slowed. But beneath the sound of dripping water, she heard something worse, an engine. Then another. Then two more. Headlights cut through the darkness, flooding the street with white light. Vans, black, unmarked, identical. Jack's eyes widened. They brought the whole damn unit. Mina's knife gleamed faintly under the flickering light as she looked out the shattered window. Her pulse steadied again, the same rhythm it had taken in countless wars, countless kills. "They should have sent more," she said softly. For a moment, the silence between them was deafening. Then, distant thunder echoed, rolling like the growl of an oncoming storm. Jack stared at her. "You can't fight all of them." "I don't plan to." "Then what?" "I'll end them." She pulled open a drawer, revealing a small metal box. Inside was a device she hadn't touched in 20 years, a black transmitter with a single red switch. She flipped the cover open. Jack's eyes widened. "You still have that?" Mina smirked. "Some habits die harder than people." She pressed the switch. A deep hum filled the air. Outside, the first van's engine sputtered. The lights dimmed. Then an explosion ripped through the night, shaking the ground, setting the rain alight in a spray of orange fire. Mina didn't flinch. She simply stood there, the reflection of the burning street dancing across her cold, steady eyes. Jack looked at her, bleeding and half-smiling. "You're a demon, Mina." "No," she whispered, watching the fire spread. "Just old." And as the night burned, she knew this was only the beginning. Her past hadn't come to haunt her. It had come to finish what she started. The fire had died down to a dull orange glow by dawn. Smoke drifted over the quiet street, curling around the blackened skeletons of what used to be vehicles. The stench of burned metal mixed with the metallic tang of blood. Mina stood in her front yard, bare feet sinking into wet ash. Her once peaceful home now looked like a war zone. Broken glass glittered in the mud like fallen stars. She felt the ache in her joints, the weight of years pressing down, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had buried the wraith a long time ago. But last night, that ghost had clawed her way out of the grave. Jack sat on the porch steps, his wound freshly bandaged. He looked pale, eyes hollow, as if what he'd witnessed had peeled back the illusion of who she'd become. "They'll send more," he said quietly. "You know that." Mina didn't answer at first. She was staring at the horizon, the faint, blood-red glow of sunrise cutting through the fog. "Then we move first." Jack exhaled a shaky laugh. "You mean you move first?" "I'm half dead, Mina." "You're not half dead. You're half useful." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You've still got that charming bedside manner." She finally turned toward him, face impassive. "They sent professionals, Jack. Ex-military, clean formation, silent approach. They didn't come to question me. They came to erase me." "That means someone high up signed the order." Jack nodded. "Project Ghost Protocol." The words hung heavy in the morning air. Mina's gaze sharpened. "That was supposed to be shut down 20 years ago." "Supposed to be," Jack said grimly. "It's back." They revived the operation under new leadership, someone ruthless, someone you trained. A muscle twitched in Mina's jaw. Who? He hesitated. You're not going to like the answer. She grabbed his collar, dragging him closer. Who, Jack? He swallowed hard. Elias. For a moment, the world went completely silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Mina let him go, stumbling back as if struck. No, she whispered. He's dead. That's what we both thought, Jack said. Until recently. Her mind spun backward through years of suppressed memories. Elias Cross. Her husband. Her target. The man she loved, and the man she had supposedly killed with her own hands. She remembered the night clearly, the safe house in Prague, the mission order that came sealed and untraceable, the way he'd looked at her when he realized she was the one sent to eliminate him. He hadn't fought back. He just stood there, eyes soft, whispering, "Do it, Mina. Before they make you regret it." And she had. Or thought she had. Now, every memory felt like a lie. Jack stood, wincing from his wound. He's alive. Different face, new name, but the same ghost. He's running the protocol now. He's cleaning up every loose end that knows the truth about the agency's experiments. Mina's voice hardened. Experiments? Jack nodded. You were part of them. Enhanced reflex conditioning, sensory recalibration, neural suppression training, the things that made you the Wraith. You think you were born that precise? No, Mina. You were built. The words hit like a blade to the spine. She stared at him, disbelief slowly giving way to fury. You knew. I didn't know everything. None of us did. You were the prototype. You were the reason they kept the project going. Mina's face went blank. She looked away, eyes fixed on the smoldering wreckage. Then I'll end it. Jack sighed, shaking his head. You can't fight a ghost, Mina. I'm not fighting a ghost, she said coldly. I'm killing one. They drove for hours, leaving behind the burning remnants of her old life. Mina's hands were steady on the steering wheel, her expression unreadable. Every few minutes, she caught glimpses of something in the rearview mirror, a flicker of a face, a shadow that wasn't really there. By noon, they reached the outskirts of the city. The skyline was jagged and gray, towers jutting up like broken teeth. Jack pointed ahead. That's where the new base is. Level 7. Underground. Mina parked the car in an abandoned warehouse. We'll need gear. I know someone, Jack said, grimacing as he reached for the glove compartment. He pulled out a small burner phone and dialed a number. After a few rings, a woman's voice answered. Who the hell is this? It's Jack Torrance. I need a favor. There was a long pause, then a sigh. Jack, you're supposed to be dead. So is everyone I work with, he said dryly. We need weapons. Disguises. Clean IDs. Where are you? Downtown sector. East Gate. Give me an hour. Click. Jack leaned back, exhausted. Her name's Lena. She runs black market logistics now. Used to handle intel distribution for the agency. Mina looked at him. Can we trust her? He gave a faint smirk. Only as far as you can throw her. Which, in your case, might be pretty damn far. Mina didn't respond. She was staring out the cracked windshield, her reflection staring back at her, cold eyes, aged skin, streaks of blood along her cheek. For the first time in years, she didn't recognize herself. Then she whispered to the reflection, voice low and steady. If Elias is alive, I'll make sure he stays dead this time. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but something outside caught Mina's eye, a flicker of movement across the street. A figure. standing still. Watching. And in the dim light, Mina saw it clearly. A white mask. Her blood ran cold. They found us. The figure didn't move. It just stood across the street, motionless, head tilted slightly to one side like a curious predator studying its prey. Mina froze. Every instinct in her screamed trap. The air inside the warehouse felt thick, heavy with silence and the faint hum of the city outside. A single drop of rain slid down the broken pane beside her, shattering as it hit the floor. "Jack," she whispered. He looked up from his seat, pale and sweating. "What is it?" "Don't move." He followed her gaze to the window. His face drained of color. Oh, God. The mask was porcelain white, featureless except for two narrow eye slits and a faint red smear where a mouth should have been. The figure wore a black coat that shimmered faintly in the dim light. It looked almost wet, like oil. Then, it tilted its head the other way. Mina moved first. She ducked low, pulling her knife free and signaling Jack to crawl toward the back door. The moment he moved, the masked figure took a step forward. Then another. "Go," she hissed. They moved through the shadows, feet silent against the cracked concrete floor. Jack clutched his wounded arm, biting back a groan. Outside, footsteps echoed, measured, synchronized. There was more than one. Mina stopped near the back exit and peeked through a gap in the door. 3 more masked figures were fanning out, moving with military precision. Their steps were perfectly in rhythm. Her pulse quickened. "They're not human," her instincts whispered. Not in the way she understood. Something about the way they moved, too clean, too fluid, like puppets being pulled by invisible strings. Jack leaned close. "What are they?" Mina's voice dropped to a murmur. "Ghost units. Elias's new soldiers." He frowned. "They're not real people." "Oh, they're people," she said, eyes narrowing. "Just, hollowed out." A sudden metallic clang cut through the silence. One of the masked figures dropped from the roof, landing just feet away. Its head snapped toward the sound of their breathing. Then, without warning, it sprinted forward, inhumanly fast. Mina shoved Jack aside and raised her pistol. One shot, straight between the eyes. The figure stumbled but didn't fall. Instead, it reached up, touched the bullet hole in its mask, and smiled. Mina felt ice crawl down her spine. There was no mouth, no expression, just the faint sound of cracking bone beneath porcelain. Then the mask shifted, reshaping itself as if it were alive. She fired again, 2 more shots. This time, it fell, body twitching violently before going still. Jack gasped. "Jesus Christ. What the hell are they?" "Ghost Protocol's next generation," Mina said, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Controlled remotely. Half human, half machine. Elias perfected it." Before he could answer, the lights inside the warehouse began to flicker. The air filled with a low electronic hum, rising in pitch. Then, from somewhere deep within the walls, a distorted voice spoke. Mina Cross. It was male. Familiar. Smooth as silk and cold as metal. "You shouldn't have survived the culling." Mina felt her throat tighten. "Elias. You were meant to die quietly. But you never learned how to let go, did you?" The voice seemed to echo from everywhere at once. Jack tried to track the sound, but it was pointless, the building itself was speaking. Mina straightened, knife glinting in her hand. "If you wanted me dead, you should have done it yourself." "Oh, I will. But first, I want to see what's left of you." The great wraith, reduced to an old woman clinging to the past. Mina smirked. "This old woman just burned your men alive." A low chuckle filled the air, mechanical and warped. "Those weren't men." Suddenly, the lights went out completely. Total darkness. Jack whispered, "Mina. Quiet." She could hear them moving now. Soft, rapid footsteps, circling. The faint metallic click of blades being drawn. Her mind raced, 5, maybe 6 of them. They were fast, but they weren't silent. That gave her the advantage. She whispered to Jack, "When I say run, head to the east wall. There's a service hatch. Don't stop." "What about you?" "I'll cover you." Jack shook his head. "You'll die." "Maybe," she said. "But not before they do." The darkness seemed to close around her. Then, movement. She turned, slashing upward. The knife met flesh. A spark of static light illuminated a pale mask an inch from her face. She drove the blade deeper, twisting. The creature screamed, not a human sound, but something distorted, layered, mechanical. It collapsed, convulsing. "Run!" she shouted. Jack sprinted for the wall, pushing through debris. The warehouse erupted with chaos, gunfire, metal clanging, footsteps pounding in every direction. Mina moved through it like a specter, each motion deliberate, lethal. She struck fast, silent, efficient, just like the old days. But for every one she killed, another appeared. She could hear Elias's voice again, closer this time, whispering through the static. "You think you're fighting for redemption, Mina. But you're just killing what's left of you." Her knife dripped blood. Her hands trembled, not from exhaustion, but from anger. "I'm not the one who lost his soul," she hissed. She turned toward the sound, and froze. A figure stood in the doorway, taller than the rest. The mask was cracked, revealing a familiar face beneath. A face she'd seen in nightmares for decades. Elias. He was older, scarred, eyes glowing faintly with mechanical light. But it was him. "Mina," he said softly, voice echoing in the hollow dark. "You shouldn't have come back." Mina raised her knife, blood glinting under the weak light. "You made me." The moment hung like a blade between them, sharp, trembling, ready to cut. Elias stood beneath the flickering light, half human, half machine. His skin was pale and stretched, the veins beneath it traced with dull silver lines pulsing faintly like corrupted circuitry. One of his eyes was his own, brown, familiar, haunted. The other glowed faintly blue, mechanical, cold. Mina could barely breathe. Her hand gripped the knife so tightly her knuckles went white. "You're supposed to be dead," she whispered. Elias smiled faintly, his voice calm but hollow. "You made sure of that once, didn't you?" "I buried you myself." "Not deep enough." He stepped closer. The sound of his boots against the wet floor echoed through the vast, broken warehouse. Every footstep stirred memories she had buried long ago, the feel of his hands, his laughter, the night she held him before the order came down. "You shot me," he continued. "In the chest. Point blank. You cried while you did it. I remember." Mina's voice wavered for the first time. "You begged me to." "I begged you to run," Elias said sharply, his composure cracking for the first time. "But you didn't. You followed your orders. Always the good soldier. Always the obedient knife." His words cut deeper than any wound. For years, Mina had convinced herself she'd done it out of mercy, that killing him was the only way to spare him from the agency's experiments. But standing before him now, alive, remade, monstrous, she saw the truth. They hadn't spared him. They'd turned him into the very weapon she was meant to be. "What did they do to you?" she asked. Elias took another step forward. His voice softened, almost tender. "They perfected me, Mina. They tore me apart, piece by piece. They rebuilt me from what was left. The pain, do you know what it feels like to have your soul peeled away, thread by thread?" His mechanical eye flickered, and for a moment, she saw something human, something broken. "They said I'd forget you," he murmured. But I never did. You're still in my head. In the code. You're the ghost I can't delete. Mina's throat tightened. Then stop this. We can end it together. Elias's face hardened again, emotion vanishing behind the mask of control. End it? This is only the beginning. The world is rotten, Mina. I'm cleaning it, replacing chaos with order. The agency betrayed us both, but I've rebuilt it. And now, it serves me. You're slaughtering people, she hissed. He nodded. The unworthy. The corrupt. The weak. The same people we once took orders to protect. You of all people should understand what has to be done. I'm done killing. Elias laughed, low, bitter, mechanical. No, you're not. You'll always be the wraith. The knife doesn't forget how to cut. The sound of metal scraping against concrete broke the tension. Jack stumbled into view, clutching his side, gun raised. Back away from her. Elias turned slightly, amused. You brought him? The handler who sold you out. He was the one who signed your death order, Mina. Jack froze. That's not lies, Mina snapped. But Elias's gaze was steady, confident. Check his left wrist, Elias said. You'll find the mark. Before she could move, Elias pressed something on his wrist console. The air filled with static, and a faint holographic projection appeared in front of them, classified agency footage. Mina's eyes widened. There was Jack, 20 years younger, standing beside a table covered in files. On the screen, her own name flashed, Subject Termination Order, M. Cross. And beneath it, Jack Torrance's authorization code. Mina stepped back, knife trembling in her grip. You. Jack's face was pale. Mina, I didn't have a choice. They threatened my family. You signed my death. Elias smiled faintly. Everyone betrays you eventually. Even the ones who claim to love you. The old assassin inside her awoke fully then. Cold. Precise. Merciless. Jack stammered, Mina, listen to me. But she didn't. She moved faster than he could react. Her knife flashed once. Jack gasped, clutching his throat as blood spilled between his fingers. He fell to his knees, eyes wide with shock. Mina stared down at him, expressionless. You should have stayed dead. Elias clapped slowly, mock applause echoing through the vast, empty space. There she is. My beautiful monster. Mina's voice was hollow. You wanted me to remember who I was? Congratulations. He spread his arms, smiling. Then prove it. Finish what we started. Join me. The storm outside rumbled, lightning flashing through the broken roof, casting long shadows across their faces. Mina's knife gleamed in her hand. I did once, she said softly. And the world almost ended. Elias's voice lowered, dangerous. Then die with it. He moved faster than humanly possible, launching forward. His arm extended, metal fingers slicing through the air. Mina ducked, rolled, and slashed upward, cutting deep across his synthetic ribs. Sparks flew. The smell of scorched metal filled the air. He struck back, his hand closing around her wrist with mechanical force. The knife clattered to the floor. She twisted, bone cracking, eyes blazing. They were inches apart now, breath against breath. Elias whispered, You should have killed me better. Mina hissed back, You should have stayed human. She drove her knee into his chest. He stumbled back, momentarily off balance. She snatched her knife from the floor and slashed across his throat. Sparks exploded. He staggered, choking on smoke. But he didn't fall. Instead, he looked up, smiling through the blood and static. This isn't over. Mina raised her blade again, but before she could strike, the entire warehouse shuddered violently. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Elias pressed something on his wrist. "Goodbye, Mina," he whispered. "Let's see if you survive this time." Then he vanished, his body flickering into static before disappearing completely. Mina stood alone, drenched in blood and silence. The alarms wailed around her. Jack's body lay motionless on the floor. She exhaled slowly, staring at the knife in her hand. Her reflection gleamed faintly in the blood-stained steel. The Wraith was back, and the world had no idea what was coming. The city was silent when she arrived. Not the natural kind of silence, this was engineered. Controlled. The air hung heavy with static and dust. Every billboard flickered with the same haunting symbol, a red circle with a black line through it, the mark of the Ghost Protocol. Mina stepped from the shadows, trench coat soaked from the endless drizzle, the knife strapped beneath her sleeve glinting faintly under the dim neon lights. The streets were empty, littered with burned cars and shattered glass. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed once and then abruptly stopped. She walked down the middle of the road, her footsteps echoing between the hollow skyscrapers. Once, this place had been alive. Now, it was a graveyard. She could feel Elias everywhere, in the hum of the streetlights, in the faint tremor under the pavement. The entire city was his machine now, an extension of his broken mind. The voice came first, soft, distorted, slithering through the air. "Welcome home, Mina." Her eyes darted upward. Speakers crackled from every building. She could almost feel his breath in her ear. "You always had a flair for the dramatic. Walking right into the lion's den. At your age, I thought you'd prefer to fade quietly." Mina kept walking. Her voice was low, steady. "I don't fade. I finish." Still stubborn. The voice chuckled, deep, echoing, metallic. "You taught me that once. And look what it made me." She turned the corner, and froze. Bodies. Dozens of them, hanging upside down from street lamps, their faces covered with white masks. The same masks she had seen before. Blood dripped slowly onto the pavement, pooling in dark rivers that snaked down the gutters. Her pulse didn't quicken. She'd seen worse. Done worse. But something about these bodies, something was off. Each mask had been marked with a number. And beneath each body, carved into the concrete, was a name. Her name. Over and over again. Mina Cross. Mina Cross. Mina Cross. Her breath caught for just a moment. "You're mocking me." "No," Elias's voice replied. "I'm reminding you. Every life you took built the person standing here now. These are your reflections." She stepped closer to one of the hanging bodies. Slowly, she reached out and pulled off the mask. Her stomach turned. It was her own face. A perfect clone, gray, lifeless, but unmistakably her. Elias laughed softly through the speakers. "You don't get it yet, do you? You were never just an assassin. You were a blueprint. Every ghost unit, they're all you, Mina. The Wraith reborn, over and over. They see through your eyes. They think like you." She backed away, heart pounding for the first time in years. "You copied me. I replicated you," he said. "Because perfection shouldn't die." Her grip on the knife tightened until her hand ached. "You turned me into a monster." "No," he whispered. "I freed you from pretending you weren't one." A low mechanical hum filled the street. The air grew cold. She turned, and from the fog ahead, shapes began to move, 20, 30, maybe more. All of them wearing the same white masks, moving with the same deadly grace she once possessed. Her own ghosts, resurrected. Mina's breath was steady now, her body sliding effortlessly into its old rhythm. "Come then." The first one lunged. She sidestepped, cutting deep into its throat with a flick of her blade. It fell soundlessly. Two more closed in, she spun, the knife glinting in an arc of silver light. Another one fell, twitching violently as sparks erupted from its spine. But for every one she killed, 3 more advanced. Their movements were flawless. Predictive. Like fighting her own reflection. Her pulse raced. She could feel her body beginning to fail, the ache in her knees, the weight in her lungs, but her mind was fire, sharp and merciless. One of the units grabbed her wrist, twisting hard. The knife fell. Another kicked her backward into a broken car. Pain shot through her ribs. She rolled just as a blade sliced through the space where her throat had been. She grabbed the fallen knife and jammed it upward, straight into the machine's chest. Sparks burst like dying stars. She was bleeding now, deep gash across her arm, breath ragged, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Still alive, she muttered under her breath. Still killing. Elias's voice filled the air again, almost tender. You can't fight them all, Mina. They are you. Every instinct they have, every thought, they're yours. Then they'll know how this ends, she hissed. She pulled a small grenade from her coat, old, compact, military issue. The pin came loose with a soft click. She tossed it into the advancing horde. A blinding flash tore through the street. Fire roared upward, swallowing everything in a wave of smoke and screams. When the dust settled, she stood alone, burned, trembling, alive. The ground was littered with broken bodies and shattered masks. The smell of blood and oil filled her lungs. She turned her head upward. The sky glowed red through the smoke. Come out, Elias, she said softly. Enough games. For a moment, there was only the sound of the wind. Then, from the far end of the street, a single figure emerged. Elias. No longer in hiding, no longer veiled by machines. His human side was almost gone now, half his face replaced by a sleek, black exoskeletal frame, wires running along his spine like veins. He walked toward her slowly, hands clasped behind his back. You destroyed your own reflection. How poetic. Mina raised her knife, blood dripping from the blade. You made me your weapon, she said. Now I'll show you what you created. Lightning cracked overhead, the city trembling as if the sky itself was splitting open. Elias's voice was calm, almost mournful. Then come, Mina. Let's end what should have ended long ago. They stood across from each other, two ghosts, two blades of the same edge, surrounded by fire, silence, and the ruins of everything they once believed in. And in that moment, Mina knew, only one of them would leave this city alive. The wind howled through the ruins as dawn crept over the skyline, pale light bleeding across the fractured city. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with ash and static, the smell of burning metal and flesh mixing into something raw and unforgettable. Mina stood in the middle of the street, her boots sinking into soot, her knife glinting faintly with every heartbeat. Every muscle in her body screamed. Her lungs burned, her arm trembled, her ribs ached with every breath. But her eyes were still sharp. Across from her, Elias stood silent amid the wreckage. Half human, half machine, he was a grotesque reflection of the monster she had unknowingly helped create. The synthetic half of his face blinked faintly with crimson light. His voice, when he finally spoke, was almost soft. You should have stayed hidden, Mina. Her voice cracked, low but steady. You should have stayed dead. He smiled faintly. You taught me how not to die. Lightning flickered behind them, painting the shattered skyscrapers in white flame. For a moment, the whole city seemed to hold its breath. Then they moved. Mina lunged first, her blade slicing through the smoke like a flash of silver. Elias dodged, countering with a burst of mechanical speed. His metal arm swung down, hitting the asphalt with a sound like thunder. She rolled aside, gasping as the shock wave rippled through her bones. They circled each other, predator and prey, though it was impossible to say which was which. "You still think you're human?" Elias taunted. "You're not. You're a design. A myth they built into flesh. I just took what you were and made it eternal." Mina's blade met his in a shower of sparks. "Eternal doesn't mean alive." She slashed upward, carving across his shoulder. Metal split, and a hiss of steam rose. Elias staggered back, his eyes flashing with mechanical fury. "You can't kill me," he said. "You'd be killing yourself." She smiled grimly. "I've been killing myself for years." Their blades collided again. Steel against synthetic bone. Every strike echoed through the empty streets. Each movement was instinct, pure muscle memory, a lifetime of violence condensed into seconds. Elias caught her by the throat, lifting her off the ground with inhuman strength. "You don't understand," he growled. "They built me to survive you. You're obsolete." Mina's lips curled into a faint smile. "Funny. I've heard that before." With a sudden twist, she jammed her knife into the side of his neck. The blade sparked as it pierced the seam between flesh and metal. Elias dropped her, stumbling backward. You can't." "Adapt," she interrupted. "Always adapt. That's what they never programmed into you." He charged. She sidestepped, drawing another knife from her sleeve, smaller, sharper, her last hidden blade. The final one. He swung his arm wide. She ducked low, slicing through the wires in his knee joint. Elias roared, dropping to one side. For a moment, there was silence again, the faint sound of wind and fire, and their ragged breaths. He looked up at her, fury fading to something almost like sorrow. "You really think killing me changes what you are?" Mina's eyes softened, just slightly. "No. But it ends what you made me." She stepped close. One swift movement. The knife cut deep into the seam of his skull, severing the power core beneath. Elias froze, eyes wide, flickering red to gray. His mouth opened, as if to speak, but no sound came. Then he fell. The street was silent again. Only the faint hum of dying circuits remained, fading slowly into nothing. Mina stood over him, her chest heaving. Her blood dripped onto his body, mingling with oil and ash. The knife trembled in her hand. She looked down at the reflection in a puddle near her feet, her face, lined and tired, streaked with blood and smoke. Behind her, the city was burning. For the first time in years, she let herself breathe. But then, a faint sound. A whisper. Unit 01 deactivated. Unit 02, awakening. Her stomach turned cold. The sound came from somewhere below, beneath the cracked pavement. Machines stirring. Systems rebooting. Her eyes darted around. All along the street, small red lights blinked in the shadows, one by one, then dozens, then hundreds. Elias's voice echoed faintly from a speaker, almost ghost-like. "You can't kill an idea, Mina. You just teach it how to evolve." Her heart sank. From beneath the city, the ground began to rumble. Shapes moved in the darkness. Dozens of figures emerging, each one shaped like her, each one carrying the same blade. The clones. The next generation. Mina backed away, her knife trembling in her hand. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in decades, pure fear. "Not again," she whispered. The nearest clone tilted its head. In a perfect imitation of her voice, it said, "Adapt." Mina's eyes filled with quiet horror. She tightened her grip on the knife. One last time. One last fight. As the swarm advanced, she took a deep breath, straightened her back, and whispered to herself. "Experience is the ultimate weapon." Then she charged into the oncoming storm. The city swallowed her whole. And somewhere in the smoke, the old woman with the knife became legend.